Hello again, and welcome to the How Could You Forget podcast. This is Lexi. We got Gurdon, we got Camp here. We're going to be talking about another topic today. Sounded like Burger King foot lettuce guy.
Another topic today.
Another topic on the How Could You Forget podcast, number 17.
That's what he's actually going to use for the intro.
Yeah,
Perfect.
Oh God.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, this is going in the episode now. Like this,
It's all of it.
straight up.
Well, all right. I got
good.
some interesting stuff today. Again, I always say that. I don't know why I would bring something that's not.
This is a
particularly
boring-ass
interesting.
topic.
Yeah. I
Hey, yo, this
always
topic
say
sucks.
that, but I'm like, would I ever open and been like, this is fine?
This shit is so ass.
Yeah.
Just open the topic.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I love that
Oh my
image.
gosh. I don't know if you can put GIFs in there, but yeah.
Oh, I will gladly. I will. Yes.
Love
that
it.
GIF is so good. I am saving that.
Yup.
That's going in the podcast.
Okay, so I don't really have
For the audio listeners, there's a cat that is a mood right now. And
a cat laying on a blanket with its eyes half
This-
closed. I think it's sleeping, but like its eyes are
barely
kind of open.
conscious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just says this shit
Adorable.
is so ass, a broken heart. So anyway, yeah, that's a little bit. It's a little bit setting the mood for today.
All right.
Not crazy, but
How could you forget
So-
ass?
no, no, please don't put that in there. So I don't have anything catchy to lead into this, so I'm gonna just let y'all know what we're gonna be talking about today. This is from a recommendation from a viewer or / listener, Swine Pine, and they recommended that we should cover Swine Pine. Woo! They recommended that we should cover Sigmund Freud.
Oh.
And I thought that would be very interesting. They said,
I am intrigued.
their comment said, as a psych major, you should cover Sigmund Freud. He was a sexist cokehead with mommy issues. It's amazing.
Oh.
And
we're
they're
already
not
off to a great
wrong.
start.
Description. Okay.
They're not wrong. But before I get into some of the things in this episode, I do want to go serious mode for a moment and give a warning that there will be some not safe for work discussions. Nothing that's too crazy graphic. I don't go into any like wild detail, but there will be mentions of topics surrounding sexism, sexual themes of course. Will be mentions of CSA, nothing descriptive, but just that word will be used. Drugs, and other generally just uncomfortable / kind of messed up sort of stuff. So, if that's something that's a sensitive subject for you, I totally understand. If you just want to skip this episode and go check out one of our other more funny, lighthearted ones.
Instead of watching this episode, you can go back and watch all 16 other episodes.
Yeah,
Right
exactly.
In a row.
Exactly. Yeah.
now. Yeah. There you go. Sorry. Go on.
There's a playlist.
And that's true. Yeah. So check out one of the more lighthearted ones if that's not your vibe. And also, if you're trying to listen to this in public, I would advise you to not do that. Use headphones. Use headphones or
Please.
listen
It
to
looks
that.
like walking around with one of those like JBL speakers in their backpack playing this podcast. How could you forget Sigmund Freud? Just like on the tube.
Yeah. So, serious mode there. Just a little bit of a warning. I love to hate on Freud personally. But I also think that there are some areas where he does deserve some credit and some nuance, as well as some historical context to what's going on at this time. And that's not always present when people talk about him, because obviously, yes, he was a sexist cokehead with mommy issues. Swine Pine was very correct. But he also had a few things that I think are worth, giving him a little bit of credit for, even if it's only literally just like a thimble size credit. So before I get into some of the background on him just as a person and his life, what do you guys know about Sigmund Freud?
My only real knowledge is to like I think the
Yes.
only thing that I really know about him is that he wanted to fuck his mom, and everyone clowns on him. That's about it. That's like all I really know about Sigmund Freud.
I slightly know more because I remember not doing personal research, but doing a little bit of research on Freud like a couple years back. And I think I got it mixed up with another person.
Okay.
Because I thought that Freud was not a cokehead. I thought that he was on different drugs like opium. So I just might be entirely off about
He could have been
this.
on both.
He could have been on both.
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't think he was an opium user.
It was an opium head.
So
I was gonna say
it was
opium head, actually.
mainly cocaine, and then I think and we'll get into this a little bit. When he eventually died, I think he was taking morphine for the pain. But I don't think that he ever did opium, from what I could see. I don't think
that's what
that
I
was as popular in his era of
That would have been the
when he was alive.
pre-Freud.
Yeah. I don't even remember when Sigmund Freud was, to be quite honest.
Well, I'm gonna
1994.
tell you. You're gonna find out.
How could you forget, Eric? We said it.
How could I forget what podcast we're on? That's great. Sorry.
That is a great segue into just some of the background about Sigmund Freud. So Sigmund Freud was born in May of 1856 to Jewish parents. And I promise this is important later. That's why I'm mentioning that. Otherwise, I typically wouldn't bring up somebody's heritage if it wasn't important. And he was born in Moravia, which was a part of the Austrian Empire, which is now the Czech Republic.
I thought that was like Moravian Nights. That's why I was very confused there for a moment.
No, not Arabian Nights.
Moravian Nights.
No. No,
Beautiful.
it was part of the Austrian Empire, now modern day Czech Republic, and really just in general, think Austria. Austria is unique, and I'm not trying to downplay that, but it's pretty influenced by German customs and Germanic type things, so you can kind of just put that in your mind that it's very German adjacent. This next part isn't extremely relevant, but I wanted to mention it because it's just weird and interesting. Apparently, he was born with a caul, C-A-U-L,
What? Oh,
which is remnants of birthing membrane on him as he was being born, which I wrote ick. It's kind of gross. But it's easily removed. It doesn't harm the baby. But his mom saw this as a positive omen about her son's future. I'm not quite sure why. I don't know. It's because it's pretty rare to happen.
I guess that just means her baby's special.
But yeah, I guess that just means wow, he's going to be so special. So I'm not going to go deep into his childhood, even though I think he'd like that quite a bit if I did. But
gotcha.
But I'm just going to get into kind of laying the groundwork for what we need to know about him, or maybe what kind of informed his theories, kind of a thing. So in 1860, his family moved to Vienna, which is the capital of Austria. I believe even to modern day, I think it's the capital of Austria. So huge place. And he was a fantastic student in school. He did very well, and he started at the University of Vienna at age 17. So he started school even a little bit earlier than what some people might have. He did have to take a break at the tail end of his college studies due to mandatory military service, which I just thought was that kind of sucks. You're almost done, and then they make you go to the military right before you're finishing up, but whatever. But he graduated with his MD in 1881. So he would have been about 25 years old graduating with his MD.
Okay, that's not bad.
Right. Yeah, he's smart dude. So he started his career as a doctor at Vienna General Hospital in 1882, where he worked in many different departments. I get the feeling that back in the day of the late 1800s, people did not have to specify as much as they do now. Obviously, if someone gets their MD, that opens up a lot of doors as to where they can work. You don't necessarily have to be locked into one specific thing. But I think back then they were a lot more lax. They were like, oh, you're a doctor? Cool. You can do whatever sorts of doctor things. Whereas now, I don't think that...
Is that not true these days?
I don't think so.
So...
well, there go my dreams.
Yeah, I was going to say, so Lexi, if I'm on a plane and I have a doctorate and somebody says they're a doctor on board, but I have a doctorate for like...
no, but see, I even said MD. That would be a medical doctorate.
Okay,
Doctor of medicine. Yeah,
Gotcha.
but I'm saying like
medical doctor of medicine.
Yeah, even today, if somebody has a doctor of medicine, I don't think that means that they can just do anything and everything all the time. I think they still have some slight areas of specialization. But so, yeah, back in the late 1800s, they were like, hey, you're a doctor? We need you doing doctor stuff, whatever that might be. So he worked in a lot of different departments in a lot of different specialties, but he did spend time in the psychiatric clinic, and that made him more interested in that field. Like he really kind of gravitated towards that and was like, huh, this is particularly interesting to me.
He's like, I'm learning.
Yeah, I'm learning. So in 1886, he ended up resigning from the Vienna General Hospital and started his own private practice specializing in, quote, nervous disorders is what they call it. That would, again, none of this really existed back then. It wouldn't have been psychiatry back then. But nowadays, if you were a medical doctor and you wanted to open a private practice about, quote, nervous disorders, that would probably be a psychiatrist. You'd probably have to go get some more education and whatnot. But again, this was the 1880s, so none of that existed.
Yeah. No one cared.
No,
right. Yeah, really. We're going to get into a little bit of that.
No.
So, interestingly enough, this is the same year, 1886, that he married his wife, Martha Bernays. This was the only woman he was ever married to, so shout out to him for that.
Shout out.
Now, that isn't too crazy on its own that man got married. Wow. But his wife, Martha, was actually the granddaughter of a chief rabbi in Hamburg, while Freud himself was an atheist. So he had Jewish heritage. His parents were Jewish, and he himself was like, nah, I'm an atheist, but he married the granddaughter of one of the chief rabbis in Hamburg.
So he was just getting like a smorgasbord of just like religious experience.
Kind of, yeah, I guess so. And the only reason that I mention that is because he was very reluctant to do traditional Jewish wedding. I don't want to say procedures. That sounds like a doctor thing, but like the typical thing.
I know what you mean though, like when you're breaking the glass and stuff like that. Like
yeah, or like the certain number of days, and then we have to go do this, and we have to talk to this person. And he was originally like, I don't really care about this. I don't really want to do that. But I think that he eventually was like, whatever. Okay, if it makes you happy, if it makes your family happy, we'll do it. And so they had both a civil service and a traditional Jewish service of
nice guy Freud, right?
Let's go.
And that's the end. He had a nice wet.
Supposedly the relationship between him and his wife was actually pretty good. I didn't find anything that was that wild. This is a little bit of a tangent, but I'll throw this in here. Apparently Carl Jung, who studied I want to say it was maybe under Freud, but maybe like just kind of in that psychoanalytic school of thought, which we'll get to. But I guess he's the originator of the idea that Freud was actually having an affair with his sister-in-law.
Oh.
No one else has mentioned any of that. Like, there's not that much evidence for that, apparently. So that's kind of hotly contested that they're like, I mean, Carl Jung said this, but like we don't have any other...
Carl? Let's think about
that. So I wasn't originally going to mention that, but I thought it was interesting to just throw in here. So, so apparently Freud and Martha had a good relationship. I think they had like 6 kids. So they were
healthy relationship.
They were just and he died quite a bit sooner than she did, and I don't think she ever remarried. So back to Freud himself. One of the other important things about him was that he was a big smoker. So obviously we know that he did quite a bit of cocaine, but he also smoked cigarettes and then cigars.
God.
And
I'm okay with cocaine, but I draw the line at smoking.
at cigars. Oh my God. So despite warnings from other people that like, hey man, you probably shouldn't be having that much tobacco, he did eventually develop mouth cancer. And that is how he passed away. That's not very exciting. That's why I kind of front loaded that. Like, you know, that's kind of one of the least interesting things about him. But what's very funny, yeah, well, I mean, like, yeah, he died, but like,
we all do that, so that's not
yeah, we all die, and he ended up developing cancer, and it was like not really that much of a surprise because he was a big tobacco user his whole life. So
yeah, dying for cancer isn't quite that funny.
Compared to the other things I have on this list, that's like, oh, okay, it's important to note, but that's not the most interesting thing. But speaking of his tobacco use and mouth cancer and things like that, it says, quote, Freud suggested to his colleague Wilhelm Fliess in 1897 that addictions, including that of tobacco, you know, including being addicted to tobacco, were substitutes for masturbation, which Freud called the one great habit. So
this is already off to such a great start.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is already...
Right.
Let's go. All right. So he thinks that every form of addiction is just like what you do if you can't masturbate.
A substitution for masturbation, yeah, which is the quote one great habit, is what Freud supposedly said.
Yes.
Again, that's according to a lot of this is Wikipedia, because Wikipedia is the GOAT. Like, it really just is.
True.
Also, this is a podcast.
Wait, there's other sources? I'm just kidding.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I yes. But this is typically a podcast where we give a good overview. If you want to actually dive like way deep onto Freud, obviously there are much better sources out there, but I just needed an overview because we don't have...
The main goal is to be entertaining. Being informative is second.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
that's my life rule.
We're giving you the jumping off point that if you're like, wow, that was really fascinating, you can go... consult some great sources on that.
Yeah, you can do it yourself. You're an adult.
Yeah.
Right. So on that note, talking about Wilhelm Fliess, he was pretty influential and a big part of Freud's career, and not in the they were roommates kind of way. You know, there's no surprisingly, there's no weirdness between them, other than that they were close friends, colleagues, and you worked together.
So they weren't roommates. Okay.
No, they were not. So according to Wikipedia, it says both men saw themselves as isolated from the prevailing clinical and theoretical mainstream because of their ambitions to develop radical new theories of sexuality. So they both wanted to study this, wanted to, again, dive deeper into sexuality. That was very taboo at this time. Still is, but extremely so back then. So him and Wilhelm were kind of like, hey, yeah, we both have this common goal. So that's why
they were both on the vanguard trying to be able to kind of break the stigma, I guess.
Yeah.
Around to talking about that. Yeah.
Trying to just be like, let's be the pioneers. Let's be some of the first people to talk about some of these things. So there's not a ton that I want to mention about Wilhelm Fliess because he's an interesting character in himself, but the episode's not about him. So I'm not going to
forget Wilhelm Fliess?
Yeah, really.
Maybe next time.
But I could not pass this one up. This is just so crazy. So Wilhelm Fliess was an ENT specialist by trade. So that's ear, nose, and throat. And for whatever reason, he believed that the tissue of the nose and the genitalia were linked.
Well, they are.
Don't want to call him like wild for this because I am not well versed in ENT stuff, so that could be true, and like maybe somebody was like, hey, he was onto something. But
Lexi,
that
I mean, they have that whole song of like the hand bones connected to the wrist, but like they have that.
Right.
He just took that so literally.
Yeah, for real. So he was a firm believer in this, that nose and genitals, they've got a link, which led him to perform a surgery on a woman that had pretty severe sinus issues because he believed it was caused by habitual masturbation. So,
as it is, of course. Yes.
Yes. As
we now
is.
know in modern year.
Right.
In modern year.
And I actually did not put this woman's first name in here. I'm so sorry to this woman.
Shame.
But he performed a surgery where part of her nasal cavity was removed. And to no one's surprise, it didn't work. And when he removed the gauze that he had packed in her nose, she was left permanently disfigured due to this surgery.
No.
Who could have seen this?
This was at the time where Freud actually was allowing Wilhelm to operate on his own nose, and he had recommended Miss Eckstein to Wilhelm for this procedure. And I just want to read this excerpt from the Wikipedia because I could not put this any wilder. So, quote, this is talking about Freud himself. At first, though aware of Fleiss's culpability regarding the remedial surgery in horror, so Freud could bring himself only to intimate delicately in his correspondence. So basically, trying to downplay, he's downplaying, with Fleiss the nature of his disastrous role. And in subsequent letters maintained a tactful silence on the matter or returned to the face-saving topic of Eckstein's hysteria. So he was basically saying, yeah, man, it wasn't you, like downplaying it. Or, oh, you were trying to do it to help her, man.
Her nose always looked like that. Like,
yeah,
no.
like, too bad. You were trying to help her with her hysteria. I mean, this isn't the worst thing, right? And then back to the quote, Freud ultimately, in light of Eckstein's history of adolescent self-cutting and irregular nasal bleeding, concluded that Fleiss was completely without blame. As Eckstein's... Oh, it gets wilder. You might want to pause. Just gets wilder.
Oh, God. Okay. All right. Okay.
Lexi, no.
Still quoting. As Eckstein's post-operative hemorrhages were hysterical, quote, wish bleedings, linked to, quote, an old wish to be loved in her illness, end quote, and triggered as a means of, quote, re-arousing Freud's affection, end quote. Eckstein, nonetheless, continued her analysis with Freud. She was restored to full mobility and went on to practice psychoanalysis herself.
What? What? Brother, what?
That's why I wanted y'all to pause, because, like, it just kept getting worse.
Every sentence felt like walking out to the street, getting hit by a truck, getting up, yes. And then in the very next lane, getting hit by another truck.
It was like, oh, this is my bro, so, like, I don't want to blame him for this.
My bro did nothing wrong.
Like, he wanted to help her, so, could have been worse. And then, oh, you know what? Actually, this woman was kind of wild in her teen years, and she already had irregular nasal bleeding, so Fleiss didn't do anything. And also, I think that, like, her nasal bleedings after the surgery were just hysterical because she wanted Freud to love her again and take care of her because she was ill. And then she was like, you know what? This guy's all right.
That's so...
Like,
oh
this
my
is so
God.
sad. Now, I will say, I could not determine from this little story if Freud ever told Eckstein that. I don't know if Freud only wrote that to Wilhelm in, like, private, or if Freud actually was like, you know what, Miss Eckstein, your bleedings are just because you want me to love you. And she was like, I'm cool with that.
Blaming.
Yeah, insane victim blaming. But yeah, I can't tell if he said that to Miss Eckstein's face or if he just said that to Wilhelm to, like, make Wilhelm feel better. Either way, it's awful, but I really hope he never actually said that to Miss Eckstein.
Straight up said it to her face.
I would hope not.
Because she still...
like, Christ.
Yeah, she still continued to, like, chat with Freud and became a psychoanalyst herself. So,
yeah, which is also, like, awesome to me, like, that she became a psychoanalyst.
Yeah, kind of wild.
Like,
So that was the little brief chapter on Crazy Adventures of Wilhelm Fleece. And
tune in next week for another episode of Wilhelm and his adventures.
We're not really even into the Freud stuff yet.
No.
So, as we know, Freud went on to establish this private practice. In this private practice, he began using techniques like hypnosis without using suggestion. I think basically what that means is that...
Yeah. I was about to say, what does that even mean without suggestion?
Think what that means is that sometimes with hypnosis, people can say things to you and use like the power of suggestion to get you to say certain things. I think for him, he would hypnotize the people and then just say, you know...
What do you feel?
Ask them more questions instead of kind of leading them or suggesting certain things. That's kind of the vibe that I got from it. I'm not going on a deep dive about hypnosis because I just don't care, to be honest. So I'm going to be 100% real. And it's also not extremely vital to this. It's just kind of a, hey, this is what he started doing.
The part without suggestion was the part that I was quite confused about.
I think that's like, and it could also be like when they go, oh, you're getting very tired, you're getting very sleepy. Maybe he didn't even say that. Maybe he just started to do the hypnosis and then whatever the patient started saying
that's
or doing.
Why I said, is that just a nap at that point? Like, that wasn't trying to be a joke.
No, but... you would still probably get into a different, more suggestible type of mindset. But it just wouldn't be the clinician guiding you to that. You would just slip into that, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, one of Freud's first patients who used the pseudonym Anna O. She does have a real name. I didn't write it down, but she was encouraged to talk about her problems while being hypnotized. And she did report that eased her troubles, that she started to feel better. Now, most of the people that Freud was treating were people that had been diagnosed with hysteria. And we'll get into hysteria here in just a moment. But Freud didn't hang on to...
The wandering uterus, right?
Yeah. Freud didn't hang on to hypnosis for long, though, because he felt that encouraging his patients to just speak... Oh my gosh, can't even talk. He felt that encouraging his patients to speak freely yielded better results and no hypnosis was needed. So he was kind of like, I don't even need to use hypnosis. I can just be like, hey, this is a private space. You can talk about whatever you want to talk about.
You can talk freely, yeah.
Yeah. So he called this technique free association. So kind of cool, kind of based. He was also a proponent of dream analysis, and we'll talk a little bit about that later as well. But by 1896, he was using the term psychoanalysis, which is probably the thing that he's known most for and still recognized for to this day. So he kind of coined that.
Did he make that word?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yes. Now, it's not like somebody may have used it before. I'm not 100% certain on that, but like psychoanalysis as it is actually used is the Freudian use of that word. And what that
kind
means.
of popularized or like contextualized.
Yeah,
it.
and he could have created it too. I don't want to say that because I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. Makes sense.
So psychoanalysis remains impactful within different modes of therapy to this day and is the basis for development for cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, which came about in the 1970s. So definitely still has an impact to this day, even if some of the stuff he was saying is kind of whack. He is also referred to as the father of modern psychology because he was a pioneer in realizing the mental connection to physical symptoms or disorders. So a little bit based for that as well.
Okay. Freudman W's.
Right. Just some slight ones. So psychoanalysis is what Freud is most known for, in my opinion. But I don't really want to talk about the things that have held up or that like,
that are good.
I don't want to talk about all of the, I want to talk about some of the controversial and weird shit. Like, he
ate a baby? What? I'm just kidding.
No, he didn't eat a baby. But like, if you just wanted to know about the history of Freud, you could go read it or you would go take a Psych 101 class. So, I want to talk about some of the weird stuff. Some of these are upsetting and very weird, very bizarre. So just prepare yourself for that. Probably one of the least weird things, though, which we've already hit on before, is cocaine. Freud was a big fan of cocaine, and he
Aren't we
wrote...
all?
No.
Well, speak for yourself.
Yeah, Alexia, come on.
He wrote a lot about its pain-killing properties, which he was not actually terribly wrong about. According to Wikipedia, and I'm just going to use this quote, it says, the application as an anesthetic turned out to be one of the few safe uses for cocaine, and as reports of addiction and overdose began to filter in from many places in the world, Freud's medical reputation became somewhat tarnished. After the, quote, cocaine episode, quote, I think that was a writing he did, by the way.
What's the cocaine episode?
Freud,
I thought people
episode?
just like... Yeah, I thought he just went on like a binger or something, and then people called it the cocaine episode.
After the cocaine episode. Whoa, dude.
Let me try to figure out what
the cocaine episode is.
Yeah, it doesn't really say. I think that was him writing about it or talking about it. So after I think this publication, still quoting, Freud ceased to publicly recommend the use of the drug, but continued to take it himself.
Yeah, exactly.
Occasionally for depressions, migraines, and nasal inflammation during the 1890s, before discontinuing its use in 1896. So he did stop taking it in 1896, and he did have a couple of writings after that were probably not coke fueled. So
probably.
Yeah. Again, can't say for sure. I mean, he said he stopped taking it in 1896. Can we really be sure? I don't know. So that's the little bit about cocaine. What?
It's just felt very informative.
A little bit about the cocaine use.
Honey, it's just funny the way he said, just the last little bit about cocaine. Like,
yeah. Well, it was. So the first theory that I want to talk about is Freud's seduction theory. That's what it was called. And seduction theory basically boils down to Freud's belief that hysteria, which we mentioned earlier, but if you're unfamiliar with hysteria, quoting from Wikipedia, hysteria is a term used to mean ungovernable emotional excess and can refer to a temporary state of mind or emotion. In the 19th century, so where Freud was beginning to do his work, female hysteria was considered a diagnosable physical illness in women.
Yeah. That's why I said wandering uterus.
Yes, exactly. And that's where it comes from. But the seduction theory is Freud believing that hysteria is caused by unconscious memories of CSA. That's basically what he chalked it up to. And I want to point out that while Freud doesn't have any allegations that I'm aware of being, let's just say, strange to children, because I don't want to get like blocked for the algorithm.
You don't want to get like shadow banned completely.
His obsession with like childhood stuff and childhood sexuality is pretty off-putting. And I'm someone who likes to read academic articles on human sexuality, and I quite frankly would study it if it was a viable career path. But there are a fair number of people in the field of sexuality research who talk about adolescence and children and childhood experiences as it relates to sexuality, but it does not come off as creepy. Like, there are plenty of times where people have talked about, sexuality in childhood or experiences, and it is just not nearly as strange as the way Freud talks about it.
Well, imagine like in other contexts it'd be more academic or like more disconnected from the subjects that are being talked about. Right? Something
about the way Freud discusses these is not nearly as clinical as it needs to be, in my opinion. Like, he needs to be way more clinical about it. And
problematic.
Yeah.
Wait, Freud? You gotta cancel that guy.
Yeah, no. We need both sides. Let's talk to Freud. See what he's
Go get his ashes or whatever.
Yeah. Might be a little bit difficult now, but
right. So, I know that Freud is, again, the father of modern psychology. It's just the very, very beginnings of it. But dude comes off as a big creep. I just, he just comes off very creepy. Not to mention also that our lovely commenter Swinepine mentioned that Freud was sexist, and absolutely he was sexist as hell. This
what, the dude who believes in female hysteria was sexist?
Right.
I believe in that. I'm just kidding.
This part's not very surprising. The sexism isn't really surprising to me, and it's probably not to all of you either. But the just off-putting way he talks about children, that one was a little bit surprising to me. And I briefly studied Freud. I mean, like literally, briefly, because I'm technically almost a psych major. I can't call it that because I think I'm, 3 or 4 classes away from technically being it, but my degree was psychology and comparative religion. So like I was slightly familiar with Freud, but obviously due to his path being very straight to the psychoanalysis and things like that, he's more influential to more modern movements than it is worth spending an entire 3 weeks talking about just Freud, if that makes sense. So I knew like a couple of these things, but not all of it, of course.
Did you know about all the coke?
Not all the coke. I mean, I knew he took cocaine quite a bit, but I didn't know that he also was like, yeah, cocaine good. Oh, never mind. Cocaine not good.
Cocaine good.
Let's go.
Like, had no idea he did a hard pivot. I mean, I don't blame him for it, but that was surprising to me.
Pivot.
Yeah. So with that lovely seduction theory out of the way, we're gonna go on to the next thing that actually ended up replacing Freud's seduction theory. And I'm gonna take a guess that if people don't know Freud because of psychoanalysis, you know him because of his Oedipus complex stuff.
Yep.
Hold on one second.
That's where I know him from.
Can you make a note? I gotta move the cat. She just jumped on my computer. Hold on. Very much apologize. I don't want BB to hear these things I'm going to say about Freud.
That is fair.
I like how that's the reason. BB, you can't hear about Freud, honey. You can't.
Your ears are too pure.
Little ears.
This is adult talk, honey. You can't.
So, back to what I was saying about, I would wager a guess.
Sorry, continue.
I would wager a guess that if people don't know about Freud because of the psychoanalysis or the cocaine, they probably know him because of the Oedipus complex. Yay!
Just screaming, woo!
Do you guys happen to know about this?
Oh, I thought you were about to ask if we had an Oedipus complex.
Listen. I'm not a therapist.
My mom listens to this podcast. I can't answer.
I'm not a therapist. I can't even call myself a psych major. So we're not getting into that on this podcast.
Tell me about. I'm just kidding.
No, but do you guys know what this is, or have you heard of this?
I do know the definition of an Oedipus complex. Okay. Unfortunately, yes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, you're not wrong.
Gurdon, what about you? You know about this as well?
I believe I do. Yes.
Okay. Unfortunately, so for those of you who might not know what that is, I'm just going to quote from Wikipedia. According to Wikipedia, quote: "The Oedipus complex refers to a son's sexual attitude towards his mother and concomitant, don't know if I said that right, hostility towards his father. First formed during the phallic stage of psychosexual development," that's all Freud stuff, "and a daughter's attitude of desire for her father and hostility towards her mother is referred to as the feminine Oedipus complex." End quote.
Very creative naming scheme.
Yeah.
Yes. And we're not going to get into Freud's psychosexual development stages and things like that. If you'd like to check on that, I encourage you to do it on your own, because it's a weird, and I don't have a bunch of time for it. But it's also, if you did take like an intro psych class ever, you probably heard about it. So if you want to check that out,
do it on your own.
Yeah.
And I don't think that there is a better way to sum the rest of this up. So I'm going to read another quote from Wikipedia.
Let's go.
It says,
Thanks,
quote,
Wikipedia.
The goat. Quote, "The complex is thought to persist into adulthood as an unconscious psychic structure, which can assist in social adaptation, but can also be the cause of neuroses." So again, you can either have typical development or develop neuroses or conditions, so to speak. Quote, "According to Sexual Difference, a positive Oedipus complex refers to the child's sexual desire for the opposite sex parent and an aversion to the same sex parent, while a negative Oedipus complex refers to the desire for the same sex parent and aversion to the opposite sex parent." So either way, positive or negative, the result is incestual
creepy
feelings.
Yeah, I was going to say positive and negative use here feels like a little bit of a misnomer.
Yeah.
Like they are both very negative.
It's not a great look for Mr. Sigmund here, okay?
Johnny Sigmund.
Johnny Sigmund, yeah, come on. Dr. Sigmund, please don't.
Please, my father was Mr. Sigmund.
Yeah. So, as I mentioned earlier, he did replace his earlier seduction theory with the Oedipus complex theory, because he had both a male and a female spin to this. And again, another quote, because I can't even begin to articulate this shit. Quote, "Some critics have argued that Freud, by abandoning his earlier seduction theory, which attributed neuroses to CSA, and replacing it with the theory of the Oedipus complex, instigated a cover-up for CSA.
Oh, no.
Some scholars and psychologists have criticized the theory for being incapable of applying to same-sex parents, and as being incompatible with the widespread aversion to incest." You don't say.
I could say that.
Yeah.
I could agree with those words.
Yeah.
I feel like it'd be weirder if you didn't agree with it.
Yeah. It's almost like there's a widespread aversion to incest for a reason.
Damn. That's controversial.
Yeah, let's not put words in people's mouths. I'm joking.
Right. So, in that case, I would say critics are onto something there. I can understand that for sure. Freud also chalks up women, quote, having penis envy as the reason why they have, quote, a greater proneness to neuroses and hysteria. So they're just real mad.
They are, dude.
And
They're just real mad they ain't got dicks.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
what's the
the
deal?
long and
Okay.
short
And
of it, yeah.
that's what makes them more prone to the wandering uterus, to the hysteria.
Yeah.
Because they're just they're like, oh, I'm like, in a way, and this might be, I'm not trying to be inflammatory by saying this, but like,
You can be.
I
fine.
feel, well, no, I don't want to. I feel like
it's our podcast. Who gives a shit?
Well, I know, but hang with me because it could sound bad before I explain where I'm going. Freud talks about this penis envy and things like this. I'm like, bro, if he would have went in a different direction, if it would have been a different time, I feel like he maybe would have stumbled upon gender dysphoria. Like, why are we chalking it up to like, oh, women are just crazy because they don't have a penis, instead of like, if somebody actually was having feelings in a certain way of like, my body doesn't align with how I perceive myself or how I want to appear, like, he could have really been on the forefront of some good, like some discovery shit.
Discovery shit.
But he didn't go that way, and he just had to be sexist and be like, women be crazy.
Of course.
So anyway,
and also, and this might also be a little bit controversial too. I do like the idea. Like I do like what you're saying. But I also feel like Sigmund Freud, if he was around today, would be incredibly transphobic.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, I am not arguing that he's progressive in any sense of the word. I'm just man, if he would have taken another route, he could have really been like on the forefront of some stuff here.
Yeah, like if he had just been cool with it a bit, I feel like it might have been like something good to look into.
We need you to be more chill, sir. Stop with all of your misogyny and
no, I must
all
be
this other
misogynistic.
Stuff. Apparently,
I must be misogyneer.
I mean, and I'm
misogyneer, whatever.
I must be more misogyny.
Yeah.
So yeah, not giving him credit there, and I in no way mean to say that in a negative connotation, because we love and support our trans friends here.
Trans rights are human rights.
Absolutely. But yeah, I was just like, that's kind of interesting. If he would have actually maybe had a few clients that were like, yeah, I do kind of feel that way or whatever, he could have been on.
No, you have the penis in me. Move on. That's
the legacy of Sigmund Freud might have had a bit more respect than what it is now.
Yeah, he would have probably gotten major shit at the time he was alive, but like retroactively, we would have been like, man, dude was onto something. But
yeah, dude might have been cooking something. Dude might have been doing something in this coked up Coke episode.
Yeah,
Coke episode,
cocaine episode. Yeah, isn't that rap song or something? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. I'm really trying not to say things that sound terrible and they end up sounding terrible. So I do apologize.
That's fine. It's funny.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so on to one of the last things that I want to talk about with Freud is dream interpretation. I want to end on this one because it's a little bit lighter of a subject. So if you were not aware, Freud was a big proponent of the interpretation of dreams, which is what he called his book on this subject, was the interpretation.
The interpretation of dreams.
Yes, that's literally the right.
Gets the point across.
Yeah.
Right
so
there.
This is one of his theories that has been, I would say, pretty debunked, but it's much less harmful in my opinion. A lot of people have different beliefs on what dreams could mean. I know there are people out there who are still kind of in that Freudian camp of like dreams being really important and things like that. I know for spirituality, some people believe dreams are very important. So I do not want to dog on that, but talking about it more in the realm of what Freud thought. The biggest piece of his theory on dream interpretation was that there was a, quote, manifest content and a, quote, latent content within a dream. I guess it's maybe not but it's just dreams consisted of, quote, manifest content and, quote, latent content. And what this means is that the manifest content was the pieces of the dream that you could remember and put together. But the latent content is the underlying meaning of the dream.
Okay.
And with that, Freud suggested that an analyst, so someone like him, someone else he trained,
he made himself a job. Okay.
Yeah, basically. Could determine what content was manifest and what was latent, while the dreamer themselves was unable to do this. So it's kind of like, this is where also Freud gets clowned on quite a bit, and understandably so, is that, let's say that the manifest content of a dream I had was, like just last night, I had a dream that I went to a concert by myself, and when the concert was over, I had to try to get to the train station to find a train to go home, but I couldn't find the board to show me what train I needed to get on, or where to buy the ticket.
Let's see. I am Sigmund Freud. I have an idea. Your dream. The train is your father. And
Oh, I was going to say the train looked kind of phallic, so I think that was a phallic symbol.
Whoa, we're on to
something. And the
something.
train was going through a tunnel.
Yes, but that's what I'm saying. The train of your father. That's what I'm saying. I'm going with down.
Okay, we can stop. So basically, yeah, that's pretty much what Freud would have probably suggested, is that maybe a more...
Dude, I should have had Sigmund Freud's job if all I had to do was basically go like, oh yes, you want to have penis in your life, penis in your wife, penis in mom, dad, everything around, and then
oh my gosh,
that'll be $800. Thank you, I'm Sigmund Freud. Like that.
Oh my god,
life was easy.
I like to imagine it's like every meeting he has, he just goes like, "Thank you, I'm Sigmund Freud," and then that's the end of the meeting. He just says his name every time.
Sigmund, you introduced yourself. Yes, I am Sigmund Freud. Thank you for reintroducing me. Yes.
Why are you going Russian? Yes. He was definitely not Russian.
You don't know.
Sorry.
So yeah, that's actually kind of a good example. Whereas more modern interpretations, or a different interpretation of that, and kind of more of like what I think about dreams, because everybody believes different things, is that more so reflects maybe like an anxiety I have about traveling alone. Like that's what I think is like, oh, maybe that's more indicative of like, oh, I went to the train station and I couldn't find where my train was supposed to be, and I couldn't buy a ticket, and so that really stressed me out. And I'm like, oh, that would stress me out in real life too. So like,
that's just traveling every day in Toronto. But yeah,
I can imagine. But so for me personally, my interpretation of that is a lot more grounded, at least I believe, in reality of like, oh, that's probably just reflective of an anxiety that I have. But yeah, Mr. Sigmund Freud, thank you.
Yes, hello,
that's probably. That's probably something that he would have said is, oh, this is actually a phallic symbol, and this is, But I'm glad that you brought that up, because...
Of course, yes, because I'm Sigmund Freud.
On the idea of dream interpretation, throughout his entire career, Freud is quoted and like as known for believing that all human behavior originated from our sexual drives and desires. However, he was also quoted as saying, in relation to dream interpretation, quote, "The assertion that all dreams require a sexual interpretation, against which critics rage so incessantly, occurs nowhere in my interpretation of dreams. It is not to be found in any of the numerous editions of this book, and is obviously it's an obvious contradiction to other views expressed in it." So he's responding to the people that are like, hey, Mr. Freud, Mr. Sigmund Freud.
Yes, I am Mr.
You're
Sigmund
the one
Freud.
that said all human behavior originates from sexual drives and desires, but then you're also like, nuh-uh, that's not my interpretation of dreams. That's not in my dream book.
Nuh-uh. The hardest nuh-uh imaginable.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. So, yeah. So that's kind of, ironically, left up to interpretation, because of Freud's whole career
let's go.
was everything originates from our sexual drives and desires, and then people go, okay, so you're saying that all dreams have a sexual interpretation then, right? And he's like, no. I didn't say that in this book.
I did not say
that.
How
dare you assume that?
Do not
I have never said that.
I am Sigmund Freud.
Oh, yes.
I did not have sexual interpretation of these dreams. That's what he said.
Of my mother, yes.
So that's kind of the last Freud-like theory that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to kind of wrap up with just what the response is to him, or like, obviously we could be here for 5 more hours if I was to go over all of the critical responses to all of his theories, but I'm not going to do that. I just wanted to figure out, like, what do people in the year 2025, or roughly within the past, 5 years, what are people thinking? Yeah. What are people thinking and feeling about Freud and his legacy? And I was very interested to see that even his legacy is debated, and there is multiple sides of this, and it was really fascinating because I feel like we lack a lot of nuance these days. So I was surprised to see that there's a lot of discourse about oh, this thing of Freud, oh, but not this thing, and, oh, this thing. And so you have academics and clinicians alike that some of them seem to believe Freud's theories were accurate. Not all of them, but at least some of them. And that the idea is that his most popular works were not the ones that should be the main focus, and that he's received a bad reputation in pop culture. And that's why people kind of discredit him. But some people believe that his thinking was sound, and people are still working to try and prove it, or they're working in a field where they're like, I'm still using some of his research and some of his, and again, I hesitate to call it research because it wasn't really, especially by today's standards, but they're using some of his ideas. That was his research.
Just, I'm right, you're wrong.
Right. While on the other side of that argument, you have a lot of psychology students and professionals alike that are giving Freud credit for pioneering the idea of talk therapy. Although Freud's methods were not always the most ethical or neutral as they should be to this day. But I thought that was kind of interesting that I'm like, yeah, he did encourage women, especially, even though he was pretty sexist. He did encourage women to talk freely to him. And that's a little bit unique. I don't know if a lot of people were doing that at the time. And I'm in the camp of some of these other people that I was reading. Oh my gosh, can't mention.
That's camp. It's him. He's on the call.
Yeah.
I am in the camp that his work is useful to look back on, and looking at it from a historical perspective, as well as seeing how that is informing our path forward, and seeing areas where it's like, okay, he kind of started something here, or he made a mention of something and he went off the rails, but if he would have backed up, that initial idea wasn't terrible, or that wasn't as crazy as maybe people thought it would be. Okay. So that's kind of how I feel about him. And then of course there's people that are just like, I cannot get over the way that this man writes and talks and his theories. All roads lead to penises and fighting over your parents.
He has to end every sentence with "I am Sigmund Freud." Like, that's really hard to read.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. He has to do it like a Pokemon every time he talks.
Sigmund Freud. Gosh. Yes, that's
oh my.
Sigmund Freud. That's him every time.
Freud used psychoanalysis. Oh my gosh.
Sorry. Mother. Sigmund Freud.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
I'm so sorry, Lexi. Continue, please.
Oh, this is beautiful. I love this episode. This is fun. Psychoanalytic Pokemon.
So, Oedipus Pokemon. Anyway. So yeah, there are some people that are like, I cannot get over all of this penis talk and incest, and I really can't blame those people. I really can't.
All this penis talk.
Yeah, I can't really blame those people that are just like, yeah, he was strange. So my final take, and then I'll of course get your guys' opinions, is that I do think Freud was biased extremely. Sexist, and probably on mind-altering substances for most of his career. Again, he says he I'm not. It says he stopped in 1896. I don't really know how true that is. And
I doubt that.
Yeah, not sure. But I'm also not entirely sure that he was any more sexist than any other white man in the late 1800s. Like, I don't...
Yeah, I was gonna say, for the time, probably not. It was probably just par for the course.
Yeah, like, I don't know. It's kind of like, I'm gonna get a little bit off topic, but it's when people talk about, like, oh, well, Walt Disney was so anti-Semitic, and I'm like, he probably was, but not more than the average person during that time.
Like, Semite of the time.
Yeah. Like, it's still messed up, but you know what else was messed up? Everything else.
Yeah, like were these people racist? Yeah. Were they anti-Semitic? Yeah. Were they sexist?
Props.
Yeah. But, and I'm not giving an excuse. It's always been wrong. Let me just say that. I'm not giving an excuse, but I am just trying to say that, like, I don't really know if it was that much more than, again, the average white man in the 1800s, and the average healthcare professional at the time. Honestly, because there's
also very true
there still is a huge bias against women, against people of color in medical fields. I mean, the amount of research that we have on women, and especially women of color, I mean, it could fit in a thimble. I mean, people are not funding these kinds of things, and they're not putting the resources into it. And so if it's that bad now, it was non-existent back in 1890, whatever, you know? So that's the only kind of, again, I'm not giving him a pass, but it's just kind of a food for thought of like, was he more sexist than other people in his field?
Than the average sexist, yes.
I don't really know.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good point, though, because it's like, like people, like not just Sigmund Freud, but everyone else around that time or in any other point in history, like they're all like products of their culture and their upbringing. So if that's what he knew, then that's what he would go on to kind of perpetuate.
Yeah. Yeah, because the thing that I found interesting is that even if it was a sexist view, he at least tried to include women in his writings. He tried to have women patients, and even if he chalked it up to hysteria, and he did give his buddy a pass for disfiguring a woman, so like that kind of hurts my argument.
We've all done that. We've all done that.
I don't know how common that was back in the day, but I do. But I know
it was not? Okay,
I think that one kind of hurts my argument, but he at least kind of tried. I think he suggested Miss Eckstein to Wilhelm with a genuine intention to help her, even if it was weird reasoning. And I also want to give him just a slight credit for the fact that it seems like he was one of the first influential people that suggested that there might be a link between psychological conditions, emotions, and stress in general to real physical implications in the body. And that's something that we're still figuring out and is just a developing story, really. So I think that that's also something that I take away from it and go, that is pretty interesting.
Yeah, that is very interesting, actually.
Yeah.
You're right.
But yeah, I think in my opinion that those nuances are worth noting. But I'm still in the of the opinion that he could have left a lot of that incest stuff out. Like I don't have a counter argument for that. I don't have any way to explain that. He could have just not.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of like a, broken clock is right twice a day kind of argument. Because I get entirely what you're saying. It's like, Sigmund Freud was like a really fucked up dude who did a lot of really stupid shit and had a lot of like crackpot theories. But, there are still, there has been a nuance. Like there is still good things that he's done or like has contributed to the field of psychology, kind of helping shape it to what it is today.
Right.
Like, and that shouldn't be, obviously we should like also have a conversation about how insane he was at points, but we can't just discredit everything he's done,
right?
And what it's like given to us in the modern era,
right?
Yeah. So
I mean, are you guys of the same opinion, or are you guys just like, nah, he was a genius, or nah, he was a weirdo?
I'm gonna say he was a weirdo. He was a weirdo with like occasional bouts of like maybe not weirdo. Like,
I think the broken
kind of
clock
idea.
right twice a day, I think that's really applicable to him. I think that's a good way to put that. Yeah. Or like the worst person just made a great point. Like I think that could apply
literally
to him
that
too.
image. Yeah, that's
So yeah, any other
so true
comments on him before I kind of wrap up, what happened to him and just his life in general?
Not from me, I don't think. I kind of accentuated my points. I mean, not the most articulately, but I feel like I got across. What about you, GRDN?
I'm chilling. I think you kind of did a really good job of it. I'm chilling.
Oh my gosh. So one of the interesting things about Freud that is not related to psychology or, his practice, was that I mentioned that he lived in Vienna, Austria. And he actually had to escape Austria following the German annexation of Austria in March of 1938. This is also known as the Anschluss, which was Nazi Germany marching into Austria to annex it.
I'm gonna hit you with a veto on the yippee there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe yippee that Freud fled. I mean, we can, he got out of there.
Yeah. At least he wasn't killed.
So, obviously that was going on. However, that was relatively towards the end of his life that he had fled. He went to the UK. And it says here, actually, that he died in exile in the UK in 1939. I'm not really sure. I don't know if that means that he just, like, exiled himself, like he chose to die alone, or if... I can't really tell, because, as I mentioned, he died from mouth cancer. Or it was called cancer of the jaw, technically, but same sort of thing. And he had realized that it had gotten to the point where it was too bad. And he's like, okay, I know I'm not going to come back from this. And so he actually wrote to a longtime friend, fellow refugee, and his doctor, Max Schur. And he was like, hey, I'm not doing well. What do I do, basically? And Freud was actually administered doses of morphine that resulted in his death on the 23rd of September 1939. So he knew he was going to die, and he's like, hey, just basically, I don't want to go out in a lot of pain. So I think that's kind of interesting. There's actually some, like, weird, not controversy, but, like, people aren't sure, no pun intended,
I was about
if
to say,
it was
Freud's
Max.
Controversial.
No, they're not sure if it was Max Schur that gave him the morphine, or if it was a Dr. Josephine Strauss, who was a colleague of Freud's daughter, Anna Freud. Either way, doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. He was administered morphine and passed away. And so he is actually on sort of display, I guess, in North London, inside of the Golders Green Crematorium and Mausoleum. Excuse me, not museum. And
the museum.
Yeah, no. And his ashes are in an ancient Greek bell crater.
Bell crater.
Yes, I will send a picture of what.
Shut the fuck up.
Oh my gosh. I will send a picture of what the urn itself looks like.
That's his urn?
Yes. An ancient
That's
Greek
actually pretty badass.
bell crater. For those of you who are listening and cannot see the visual, imagine a very old piece of pottery that looks, again, like an urn would, like you would think it would, rounded out, and it's got very Greek-looking depictions of a man sitting on a rock or a stool or something, and then there's a woman holding a platter or a plate of some kind.
It is very pretty.
It looks like an old Greek urn, or like an old Greek vase, basically, is how I would.
Yeah, it's an ancient Greek bell crater.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he was put into that, and he was placed into a corner of the crematorium, where I guess to this day I think you can go see or visit. And it was on a plinth designed by his son Ernest. And so it says it is painted with a Dionysian scene. So based on
Dionysian scene? Yeah.
Sure. Based on Dionysus. So, which, of course, the god of fertility, that's what you gonna put on your urn, Freud? Okay.
Oddly thematic, like
He's nothing if not consistent.
The craziest part of like, okay, he dies, he's cremated, he's in this part, that he was actually gifted this urn by Marie Bonaparte, who was part of the Bonaparte dynasty, so Napoleon. I don't think that she was like his wife or anything, but she was a part of that dynasty. And
small freaking world.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And Freud's wife, Martha, was also put into this urn when she died.
I was going to ask if anybody was mixed in with the urn, but you actually answered.
Yes, Martha is.
W. Martha.
And then that's a little bit, I think, sweet as well. I think that speaks to how Martha felt about Sigmund, because they're in the urn together now, but she didn't die until 1951.
Goodness
so
gracious.
It was quite,
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, how old was she when she died?
She was fairly old. Let's see. She was 90.
Goodness gracious.
Yeah. So she lived for quite a while, and she was only ever married to Sigmund, and he died in 1939. She died in 1951 in England as well. So I have a feeling that she went with him to England. If he was talking about dying in exile, he probably went away to die, in a room or some sort of something.
A room.
Yeah. A room of some kind.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, as morbid as it sounds, I feel like that's not too uncommon. I remember a few years ago, there was someone I followed on Twitter who, he had ALS, and it got to a point where it just, he could no longer just keep living with it. So he decided to just, do it himself in his room with his dogs around him and stuff like that. Like, it's not too uncommon.
Exactly. Yeah. It's funny the use of the word exile. I'm thinking they sent him to an island, and
exile's a weird way to say it.
No, I think he just retreated into a room and only had the doctors in there, and
yeah, he might have been exiled from his home country, hence why he felt so strongly about it.
That's true. I don't know, but yeah. So that's some stuff about Freud. Again, I say some. There is a lot more to be discovered. If anybody,
we can ask Mr. Sigmund if you'd like. I can go grab him again.
Just go in, grab the
Hey Sigmund,
grab the urn or whatever it was.
Hey Sigmund. Yes, I'm Sigmund Freud again. Hello.
Okay, Sigmund Freud, can you do an outro for us?
Oh yes, of course. I am Sigmund Freud. I can give us an outro. I may be Ash, but you know who's not Ash? Our patrons over on Patreon.com.
Thanks, Siggy.
No problem. Like also as Siggy, you can smoke me up very good. Have a wonderful night. I am a Borat.
Okay. Thanks everybody for listening to this episode.
So honored to have the Sigmund Freud as a guest on our podcast, and I hope you enjoyed.
Yeah, back from the dead.
Go away, Sigmund. Sigmund. Okay, yeah, just out the front door. Okay, all right, we're good.
All right, we're good.
I had to leave him out.
Thank God he's gone.
Yeah,
okay.
Thank goodness. Okay.
As always, if you made it this far, thank you so much. Again, as lovely ghost of Mr. Sigmund Freud pointed out, shout out to our lovely patrons over on Camp's Patreon and Gurdon's Patreon. And if you want to see your submission potentially get discussed, make sure you leave us a comment. I do keep a list. I know.
Like Swine Pine?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Shout out to Swine
Shout
Pine
out Swine Pine
for recommending this episode. I do keep a list of these topics, and we'll get to you at some point. Yeah. So thanks again, and don't be like Sigmund Freud. Just don't.
Yeah.
Don't do coke.
I mean, it's not a very high bar, but just be conscious of the bar. You know what I mean?
Be conscious of the bar.
Be better than Sigmund Freud. It's not a very hard.
Oh, I actually forgot to say a little bonus nugget. Have you guys heard of people might know Freud also from the term Freudian slip? You guys know about that? Yeah.
Yeah.
That was him. Is that the belief is that if you say something and you quote unquote misspeak, but that it was actually your unconscious what you really wanted to say. So
yeah.
what I really want to say is bye.